Yo, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be breaking down some of my favorite tournament or GPP plays for this Week 7 NFL DraftKings main slate. Let's dive right into it. And like I always do here in these videos, I'm going to give you a high-level overview of my cheat sheet, breaking down some of my favorite tournament plays here for Week 7. But as always, everyone, just want to remind you, I am running that free Discord channel as well. You can see that mentioned above. We have close to 800 people in there now talking multiple different sports for DFS. So if you want to join that, there's a link to do so in the description below, as well as in the pinned comment below. With that being said, let's dive into a couple of game stacks that I like targeting here for Week 7, starting with this game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. And everyone, I do think we can stack this game up either way. If you wanted to roll out Jared Goff with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, maybe Sam Laporta, I am absolutely on board with that. It's just a little easier to make the Vikings stack work and then run it back with a couple of Detroit players. It gets really expensive either way, but it is doable. So I like stacking up Sam Darnold here with his top two pass catchers and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. That secondary for the Lions just not super good, but their run defense is elite, so I want to try and avoid that. Now you can say the same thing about the Minnesota Vikings. If you're going to score points on this defense, you usually got to beat them through the air, which is why I like running it back there with Jamison Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs, because he's more involved in the passing game than David Montgomery. But assuming that both of these offenses bring their A game for the passing attack this weekend, I think it could turn into a shootout. And then another game that I like here is this game between the Seahawks and Falcons, and I like stacking up Geno Smith with his top two pass catchers and DK Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Both those guys got some really nice cornerback matchups this week, and then running it back with Kyle Pitts. We could absolutely put in Drake London there, but I'm a little hesitant to go with the running game here with the Atlanta Falcons. Bijan was awesome last week against the Carolina Panthers, but that's to be expected. That's one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL, and while he is trending well here this week against this Seahawks running defense, I just don't love how involved Tyler Algier is still in that backfield. He's stealing a lot of opportunity and work from Bijan himself. So this is my preferred stack here. You could also run out Kirk Cousins if you wanted to, but Geno Smith, I just like him in this spot, especially considering the price with his top two wide receivers. Now folks, before we dive into some of my favorite individual plays and stacks here, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. It's completely free to sub, and I'm gonna have football content coming out for you guys throughout the remainder of the year. Alright, now diving into some of these individual plays here, we're gonna kick it off with the quarterbacks, and another game that I almost highlighted as a game stack was this game between the Commanders and the Carolina Panthers, and what I would do is stack up Jaden Daniels with his top pass catcher and Terry McLaurin, just a 1-to-1 stack there, and then run it back with both Chuba Hubbard and Deontay Johnson. Assuming that this game does turn into a bit of a shootout, those guys are receiving all the volume on the Carolina side of things. Highlighted both in my cash plays video this morning, so if you haven't checked that out yet, make sure you go do so. But another guy that I think we can get on board with this week is Brock Purdy of the 49ers. That Kansas City Chiefs run defense is one of the best in the NFL, so if the 49ers are going to win this game, Brock Purdy's likely going to have himself a day. Now moving on to the running backs here, and I did highlight some of the value running back plays in my cash plays video this morning, so again, make sure you go check that out. But the first guy that I wanted to highlight here on the tournament side of things is Saquon Barkley, and yes, we can run with that revenge narrative, playing against his former team in the New York Giants, but honestly, I just kind of like the matchup here in general, and even more so, I love how under-owned he's projected right now, coming in around 6% ownership. He's a guy that can easily go for 30 plus DraftKings points in probably any matchup. And then Joe Mixon here, talked about him last week, really his two big healthy weeks so far this year. He's approaching close to 30 DraftKings in both, and I do like this spot here against the Green Bay Packers once again this week, so he's definitely on my tournament radar. And then if Brian Robinson Jr. is out for the Commanders this week, I really like Austin Eckler here as well at $5,900. He's in a smash spot against that Carolina Panthers run defense. Now diving into the wide receivers here, and I was really hoping that Malik Neighbors would fly under the radar this week. It looks like he's coming in around 13% ownership, which I do think is still a little bit low, but I was hoping for single digits when I was looking earlier. With that being said though, this guy has truly been fantastic when in the lineup. Obviously he's coming off of that concussion right now, but I don't mind the matchup here this week against that Philadelphia Eagles secondary, and B, love the opportunity and targets he's been getting from Daniel Jones. Like stacking up Terry McLaurin here with Jane Daniels, kind of talked about this already. McLaurin is just getting better with Daniels by the week. That chemistry will continue to grow. And again, just a really good spot there against that Carolina defense. And then T. Higgins and both Jamar Chase actually have some nice cornerback matchups this week. I don't mind either one of them, but really like the price here for Higgy. And then Noah Brown's a cheaper wide receiver. Everyone's looking at Juju right now at $4,000. I talked about him in my cash plays video. Noah Brown saw 8 targets last week. Very affordable at $4,000. We could do a little mini stack there with Jane Daniels as well. And then I got a couple of tight ends there for you. And the first being George Kittle. Would be willing to spend up for him this week. Solid matchup against that Kansas City Chiefs defense, actually. But more importantly, he's really flying under the radar this week. We're going to be able to get him at low ownership because Brock Bowers, who's just $200 cheaper, is getting most of the ownership here at the tight end position. And for all the right reasons. I talked about him in my cash plays video, if I haven't plugged that enough already. But I do like Kittle here on the tournament side of things, and we could stack him up with Brock Purdy. And then Dalton Schultz is sitting in a good matchup against this Green Bay defense as well, kind of flying under the radar at $4,200. We all know the tight end position is gross week to week, but this is one of those guys who does have touchdown upside, and he could hit 4-5x value at that price. And as always, going to wrap it up there with a couple of defenses. If I have the money to spend up for a defense this week, I love the Buffalo Bills taking on the Tennessee Titans and Will Levis. He's just not a starting quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. Takes a lot of sacks, a lot of turnover-worthy plays, and the Bills here should have some momentum coming into this week after trading for Amari Cooper. Yeah, I'm well aware he's an offensive player, but when you get a stud like that into your locker room, you know the vibes are high. And then the Vikings defense here, look, I talked about that game earlier between them and the Lions. I do think there's some shootout potential there, but let's not sleep on how well this Vikings defense has played. If that game happens to be low scoring, it's probably because the Vikings defense is playing well. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great weekend here, folks, and let's win some money on this Week 7 main slate.